Okay, I think we're away. Hi there, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy channel. My name is Jed, and today we are reading the book that bangs the hardest. Socrates and Jesus, a dialogue in heaven. What if the two primary figures that have influenced mankind the most had a conversation in heaven? What would it be? What would they talk about? Would they be able to put their minds together and solve humanity's problems? And if the answer to that question was yes, how kick-ass would it be if there was somebody who wrote this conversation down and streamed, and even better if somebody streamed about it and read it along with you? Well, that's this stream here. We are reading this book that has so far given us a fantastic explanation of the cause of human beings' problems, and answered the question, why has it taken us 2,500 years to figure this out if Socrates laid it out for us, which is a big one. And of course, the questions of the book that we are wondering about as well. That was a stupid way of saying that. Another big question is, well, how do we share this? If we can understand the nature of man's problems, the cause of our ignorance, and conflict internally and externally, and if we can understand what is required to solve those problems, or the meaning of life, which is, in a nutshell, to move from belief-based cognition into understanding-based cognition. If we can understand that, how exactly do we go through that process? And how do we share it with others? What's involved in us going through that process? And not only how do we share it with others, but is there a way of understanding all of the possible reactions to us sharing that with others? Some people might be open and curious. Some people might be violently hostile to learning the meaning of life. Or, to say that another way, violently and fiercely loyal to their own ignorance. That's a big issue. So, given that there is that kind of a spectrum of human reactions to discovering the truth of the meaning of life, and learning that there is a way of solving man's problems individually and collectively, how do we understand all of those possible reactions, and how do we artfully navigate through them? That's a big question. Because it's important that we share with everyone if we want to have a good time up in here on planet Earth, and if we want to save our species, and if we have a care and empathy for our fellow man. But also ourselves. We are going through that process. Now, individually, there is more involved, because once free from belief and once in the game for understanding, that's the quest that you are also on if you are following along in this channel. We recognize that there are, while understanding is a way of functioning that we don't leave behind, we don't throw it in the trash, we take it with us, there are still higher cognitive functions available to us through understanding. There is the spiritual experience, what we call nous or knowledge. See? Demystifying what could be weird and scary. Or what's the spiritual experience? How does it relate to the near-death experience, or yoga experiences, or various other experiences that we may encounter through music or dance or childbirth or traumatic events, lots of different ways? Well, they're all the same. Or rather, they're all gradients of the same kind of experience called nous, or knowledge, or ousia, the capacity of mind to turn around and know itself eternally. But Socrates put it a different way. He said, he put it that way. He said also, it's the exercise of philosophy, to separate your soul from your physical body and awaken that eye of the soul called ousia. Of course, to collect yourself outside of the body, both now and in the future. So there are various steps involved in that process that Plato describes, but a difficulty that we have, and a question we're carrying in the text is, well, while Plato described the steps, he didn't give us instructions. He didn't give us instructions for how to do it, so we've got to figure that out. So that's the experience of knowledge. Now, we better make sure we've done our work in discovering and removing our own false beliefs, both individually, our false beliefs about self and the world we get from childhood, but also culturally or religious beliefs. And that's what we're doing in our text. Whether you like it or not, you are influenced by the Abrahamic religions, even if you don't say you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew. It's part of our culture. It's part of where the world is right now. So we got to do the work to understand what's the root functioning analogy cause behind that, so we can understand it sufficiently and free ourselves from it. That's a big part of the book. A lot of people say, oh, I'm a Christian, and they don't recognize there are lots of different interpretations of the teachings of Jesus in the Bible itself. There is Paul's, there is Mark's. They are in opposition. They're in opposition. Mark is specifically denying the stuff that Paul says. There is Matthew and Luke who copied Mark. There is John who started okay, following the logos, but devolved very quickly into his own personal beliefs and desire to save Paul. There are human dynamics going on. But what's fascinating is we can understand the human dynamics in terms of two things: belief and understanding. Now, what we're saying is understanding also opens you up to vision, insight, including the highest vision and insight, nous or ousia or knowledge. But depending on how much of the particular translator or interpreter's personal beliefs are coming through, and depending on how high his level of understanding and vision is, well, that's going to be how he's going to transcribe or relate or interpret the teachings of Jesus. For instance, Paul doesn't care about the actual understanding and vision of Jesus. It's all his own beliefs. And we just said John starts with a little bit of a good understanding and vision, but not enough. And he hasn't done any work removing his false beliefs, so it comes in very quick. So that's the dynamic. How, on one scale, how far up understanding and vision are you? And on one scale, how strong is your false beliefs? How quickly will they come into project? So we've been learning the different sorts of people and their different motivations. Paul, Mark are the two big ones, considering Matthew and Luke copied Mark and John is saving Paul. And then we have the Gnostic Gospels that were discovered in Egypt in the 60s. They're called Gnostic because they talk about the capacity to know. It's not Paul's stupid bullshit about beliefs. So, Jimmy, James, and Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas the twin of Jesus. Those are the two big ones that we've looked at so far. But it's all the same thing. Expressed in all of those individuals and expressed in the story of Jesus himself, it's a conflict between belief and understanding. That's it. That's the whole game. Belief causes problems. Can you kill for belief? Absolutely you can. You're supposed to. Especially if it challenges the belief of your family or clan or tradition. That's the root fundamental belief of the Abrahamic traditions. Abraham. What's the Abraham story? Oh, he was told to kill what he loves the most because God says so. Can you kill for understanding? Of course not. Doesn't make sense. That's the game. That's it. Just belief to understand. That's all. It's just that simple. So, we can represent that movement from belief to understanding with historical figures. Jesus representing belief, of course. Socrates representing understanding. With cultures, the Jewish culture from which Jesus and Paul is a modern Jew, you could say, or a Pauline Jew is modern Christianity. So Judaism or the Abrahamic religions, and the Hellenic tradition represents understanding. One murdered the other. Interestingly, the beginning of the Dark Ages was when the founder of the church, or the head of the church, Emperor Justinian, murdered the philosophers and shut down understanding. That's the issue. Belief isn't neutral. It's the literal cause of our terrible hostility, injustice, torture, and murder. It's a bad thing, in definition. That's essential to say. Okay? The modern democratic authorities' job is to lie about that and say, oh no, let's compromise with the fascists a little bit. Let's compromise with the capitalists a little bit. Let's have a little bit of genocide, a little bit of slavery. Bollocks. Beliefs are, in principle, in opposition to understanding. So, what a good book to help us see that. And we review, and it's worth reviewing, it's worth saying. All right, so while belief is in opposition to understanding, we also recognize that understanding cannot just turn back and help us to understand our root causes of our belief, to free us from those chains individually with the art of philosophical midwifery, and culturally with this book, understanding the root of Abrahamic religions, understanding the history, the different translators coming from Jesus' time until now, what we're doing, the different translators, all of that understanding is needed. And all of that understanding is we also apply to ourselves in philosophical midwifery analogously. As we trace the history of Christianity up until now, so too do you trace the history of your problems back through your past. As there's a root fundamental analogy you don't know you're carrying, but you are if you're influenced. No, you don't even have to be one of these people. You don't even have to be religious. You are influenced by it. So too, you could say, I disown my family. I've completely left that tribe of weirdos. Still, you are influenced by it. Until you trace it back to find that root analogy you don't know you're carrying about the nature of self, mind, and understanding, the three things that are blocked by being a believer. But you can find that root analogy. You can free yourself. It's entirely possible. It helps to have friends in the game. You need courage to follow understanding while you still believe the opposite to be true. While your beliefs are causing a fear of understanding, you need courage to keep going anyway. You might fear not having an image of yourself. I need it. My familiar beliefs, my familiar self-image, I need it. How can I be completely open to reason and understanding of the universe, to the logos? How can I be that open? Courage. Thumbs up, courage. So that's the game. Move from belief to understanding. Understanding opens us up to knowledge, of course, but as we were saying, you also have to be doing the work on removing your beliefs. Otherwise, you may revert to your beliefs, because every step of progression into understanding and every vision comes with a counterattack. Hey, if human beings can be so terrible against reason and understanding, everyone would benefit by an equal society. Why do we allow billionaires to exist? A few dozen of them. Why do we allow them to murder children and starve our friends and family? Why do we allow that? It's so fucking stupid. That's the power of beliefs. It blocks us from reason, evidence, understanding, and empathy for our fellow man. Meaning, at every step towards the development of understanding and empathy, you will have a counterattack. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a block, would it? Keep going anyway. Stay in the game. But also recognize counterattacks for what they are. Now, a very good example of the counterattack is the story that most people know about Jesus from Mark. He has a brilliant light experience, or has an ousia knowledge experience, but then you counterattacks hard and tries and makes sense of that experience through his beliefs. That's a danger. And then gets wrapped up in his religious beliefs from his childhood, identifies with the son of David, etc., etc., falls into treason, gets murdered for it, etc. Okay, so understanding is the path, essentially, the path to knowledge, but also you have to apply understanding to knowledge to make sense of it and integrate it well. The two together is wisdom, and as we've been reading, that's the goal. The goal is to have wisdom and use it in your functioning, because knowledge is of the ideal. Like a doctor has an ideal image of the healthy body, or an image of the healthy body in mind. But also you need understanding as well to recognize the parts that have to go together in the healthy body, so you can actually function with that knowledge and understanding to benefit your patients. Otherwise, you're not a doctor. Equally so, to be a guide for our soul and others, we need both that vision, or the model itself of the true nature of the soul. That's knowledge, ousia, separating your attention or consciousness from your physical senses. Through the dialectic, that's part of it. But also turning that understanding you've been developing along the way around to that experience to understand it as well. That's wisdom. Using it as the model, thumbs up, is a state of being that is personified with the god Zeus. Okay. It's also what we need to recognize and understand and demand from every spiritual and political leader. You wouldn't want a doctor to do medicine if he didn't have an image of a healthy body. Equally so, we wouldn't want a politician or spiritual leader to help others or practice the art without that model. Equally so for understanding, that is what it would mean to have a rational and just society. And for yourself individually, to be a rational and just ruler of your own soul. And equally so in relationships, that model or Zeus is the third person in your relationships, which both you and your beloved look to try and reach together yourself. And that's also it's the ideal of all. That's the thing about a paradigm, it works everywhere. That's kind of what it means to be a paradigm. For governance, for guruship or spiritual leadership, for your own soul, and for relationships, any relationship, therefore. Isn't that neat? So, understanding From belief to understanding, that's the meaning of life. What's understanding used for? Well, to understand knowledge, which is the paradigm of justice and beauty, but also it's where understanding comes from. Understanding is the playing out and functioning in time of all of the aspects of knowledge that you've experienced and understood. So you understand knowledge to get to it. Once you've had that experience, you understand it to gain wisdom. But that's not the end. There is that next step which takes us beyond Plato to Socrates. Because there's even a cause to wisdom. Or to say it another way, hey, if that is the ultimate experience, there has to be something experiencing it. Or if there are all those qualities, beauty, justice, the model of understanding, the logos. What's keeping all of those things together? That's the self. Giving us belief as stage 4, understanding as stage 3, but understanding allows you to reach stage 2, knowledge and its cause, stage 1, the self. Having all three is our goal, is Zeus. Of functioning through time and understanding, a state of mind or a model or paradigm that's used of number 2, knowledge, the two things together, wisdom, but to have that always as your true, authentic self, number 1. So the self through mind and understanding. So that's the use of understanding. Oh, and also you can, while beliefs are always in conflict, Jews will always fight the Christians and the Muslims and vice versa, because there is no unity. You have to be a member of the team. That's why the only solution that religious people offer is kill everyone who we don't believe or convert them. Not with reason and understanding, but by saying, well, I believe Jesus in my heart. I feel him. But that's never convinced any Jew ever, or Muslim ever, or Mormon ever, because it's nonsense. Yeah, I hear the same thing from, there are 1,000 different religions, and they all say, well, I feel it's true. That's ignorance. But I love it. Yeah, you love ignorance. But I identify with, yeah, you've identified with ignorance. By the way, you're not special. That's the human condition. You're not special to identify with a belief. That's what all humans get. That's the cause of human problems. Why do you think murder comes from? Mass murder and genocide. Well, they're not the chosen people. They're not like me. Anyway, spelling it out, but sometimes you have to. Isn't that interesting? You can count the cognitive functions available. Oh, and by the way, we've got 4, the self, knowledge, and understanding. We have the 1, 2, 3. The 4th is belief. Now, the difficulty is belief has to reject those 3, because if you understand something, you wouldn't have to believe someone else, would you? If you know it, why would you believe someone with a big funny hat telling you about Jesus or Muhammad or Joseph Smith or whoever the fuck? Of course, you wouldn't have to if you know it yourself. And of course, do you have to believe that you have a self? Of course not. You are. It's you. You don't have to believe that you are a self. That's silly. So, belief is in opposition to those 3 things, but it also has to teach a fear of those things. So, ever noticed that the fascists go after the rational people? The content creators that engage in understanding have all the death threats sent to them by idiots. They're not idiots, they're believers. They're human beings at the level of human development called belief-based cognition that teach a fear of that. Now, the other part of the coin is desire. The believers offer a distorted shadow of self, a false image of a self. You're inadequate, you're a sinner, but you're a Christian, right? Or a Muslim, just add whatever self-identity you have in there. Now, the true self is beyond images, so any image of the self is going to be lacking, diminishing the true nature of yourself. Belief offers a false model of knowing. While knowing is experienced as pure bliss, knowing everything all at once, recognizing your own consciousness as eternity, the model for the physical universe, believers can't have any of that shit. It's not shit, any of that wonderful brilliance. But you know what they can do? While they can't have a positive effect to help people reach the good, because the good is that experience, they can hurt people. They can have a negative experience. They can imitate the same cruelty they suffered when they were shot down. Sadism. Being a hater, being a troll. Have you seen the right-wingers? We should kill all the lefties. We should kill all the foreigners. We should kill all the brown people. We should kill all the Palestinians. Frothing at the mouth to act in the most disgusting, horrific way towards human beings. What the fuck is wrong with them? I'll tell you, it's belief. Because belief offers this is all from the book. All of this is from the book we've been reading. Belief offers a feeling to compensate with a lack of actual knowledge, sadism. Or a feeling of superiority as you say, well, I'll pray for you if you don't believe in Jesus. I get that a lot. People come up to me and say, can I tell you about Jesus? Oh, no, beliefs cause human problems. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in understanding. Well, let me tell you what I think. No one cares what you think. No one cares about anyone's opinions. That's why they're opinions. They're stupid. You pay money to get understanding from colleges or schools. But no one gives a shit about, hey, by the way, I bet you $1,000 no one in your community or church or family has the same opinions as you. So what makes you think of the 1,000 people I run into each week or whatever? 1,000 different opinions. Do you know how many of them are true? 0. There are 8 billion different people with 8 billion different sets of opinions. They can't all be true. At best, one is. But you know how many opinions are true? None. Of course not. Understanding, however. You know what they say? Let me pray for you. Fuck off. That's the sadism. Or the feeling of certainty. Instead of openness and curiosity. And instead of understanding, imitation. I can repeat the talking points I see on Fox News or on Alex Jones. I can repeat the things I hear in church from my pastor or imam or preacher or minister. Again, thousands of different versions, all of which are different, by the way, so it doesn't take a lot of thinking to realize they're all fucked. Or that it would be really immature to say, well, my beliefs happen to be the right one out of the thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of different ones out there. Of course not. Understanding. Understanding is true and universal. We recognize that for every other profession, except for kings and clergy, except for the soul and how to harmonize human souls on the planet. That's it. That's the nature of human immaturity. And the disgusting addiction to or desire. So We fear true understanding, mind and self, because that's 321. We're in level 4, belief. But also there is a desire to play out the familiar imitations of 321, just saying no, or contrarianism, or imitating the people who shut you down instead of understanding for 3. Certainty and sadism instead of number 2, the state of being of knowledge. And the image and mask and clan identity instead of number 1, the self. They're addictions. That's why to actually be a good person and fulfill your purpose as a human being, you need courage. Courage is to hold on to the true opinions, it's not understanding yet, that you get as you read, in spite of having that fear and those desires. That's the definition of courage in the Republic from Socrates. In other words, you won't need it once you're out of belief, but you absolutely need it to get out of belief. Now, there is one more stage below the 4th, which is a mass of difference, or relativism, or strict dualism. There is no principle. While believers have a imitation of principles of understanding and knowing by their stupid beliefs and their sense of certainty, or sometimes authority figure as a model of truth. Jesus said so it must be true. The founding fathers, Donald Trump says so it must be true. Moses said so because, etc. So while believers have their own sick distortion of universal statements, so that they're quite happy to go and murder people for their universal sanctification of their ignorance, universalization. It's not just my stupid ass opinions, it's true for everyone. That 5th category doesn't have that. The modern Democrats don't do anything. Nah, who gives a shit? Let the world burn. Because I have my opinions, but there wouldn't be an objective standard, which is insane, because exactly establishing an objective standard that will always be true, even if you're rich, even if you have different colored skin, is literally the definition of what a lawmaker is supposed to be doing. So it's absurd that the modern Democrats exist. And of course, the lacking of the model and understanding gives it another level of absurdity that right-wingers exist. That shouldn't be a political party. Never ever should you have a surgeon that doesn't care, doesn't have the model, knowledge, the understanding, and just has belief. And secondarily, as we've seen, believers have their model of virtue or knowledge as sadism or hurting others. They're in conflict within themselves, others to others, and they are in conflict with other believers or understanders. We would never ever allow surgeons to exist who think, oh, I'm only going to help certain patients and other patients I'm going to let die. We would never ever let a pilot say, I'm only going to care for certain passengers, but I want some of my passengers to die. That's insane that we are so ignorant that we allow a right-wing political party. There is no right-wing political party. It's the institutionalization or the projection of pathologos beliefs. That's it. It's just that simple. So there's our 5. Self, knowing, understanding. They're the 3 ones that are good. And then the bad ones, belief and a massive difference. The right and the left, funnily enough. Authority figures. Of course, the people who are seeking to actually care for people, the best human beings out there, and who are seeking understanding of problems, they would say, I am left, because those are the 2 options in our society. But what they haven't yet realized is they're not left, they're not right, they are becoming human. Homo sapiens is man the thinker. That's what it means to think. They are entering the Logos party. Because Logos is the same principle. The same principle for the Logos is the inherent intelligibility of knowledge that you experience all at once in the experience of ousia or knowledge. But it's also the it's the intelligibility that you follow through time, step by step, through the dialectic in time. That's understanding. So the name for that paradigm that the good people are seeking is the Logos. That's the name for it. And the study that we're in that seeks to get there, love of understanding, philodianoia. So those are the names. That's the art we're here to master. The subject is philodianoia. You could say that's the art, or you could say, well, if the structure of the Logos is the dialectic, you could say it's the art of the dialectic. So the art that we're all here to master is the dialectic, which is the opposite of debate. The subject is philodianoia, because you also have to love understanding to play the game. You have to be inspired. No one's going to make you learn. Whether it be inspired to solve your problems, or inspired to become better, or have a loving relationship, or know the meaning of life, etc., etc. Lots of reasons to be inspired. So the art is the dialectic. The subject that we are here to master, the subject of learning it, is philodianoia. Because dianoia means understanding. So while understanding can help you reach knowledge, and combining the two together as wisdom, that's Sophia, philosophia, philosophy, we recognize there are things that there is a stage beyond wisdom, the self, that you get through understanding. Also, you can use understanding to address false beliefs. So therefore, we would rather call it philodianoia, love of understanding, than philosophia, love of wisdom. So that's what we're doing. We're doing all that, which is really one thing, from belief to understanding. Now, there are parts, including how we share it, because, hey, like for myself, I know that I gravitate towards people who love understanding, people who have a good mind and a good heart. They don't use their understanding to hurt people. They're not sadistic. They're not clever Jews or clever debaters or clever Christians who use their understanding to hurt other people. So people who have genuine empathy and a love of understanding. I know I gravitate towards those people. They are the good people. And I also recognize their difficulty. They can describe problems. They can understand some of the causes of problems. They have a genuine desire to solve problems, but they lack the model of how to solve problems. So my life for a very long time has been doing my best to share that understanding and those names. Hey guys, you know how you wish there were principles for the left? Because you realize this, it's all relative and there is no opinion, let's not do anything, let's just have my own personal opinion and I'll try and maximize my portfolio while I'm a Democrat and never push back against the fascists. So they're sitting back on their heels, letting the fascists murder human beings by the hundreds of thousands. Yeah, it does fucking suck that Democrats do that. You know what that model is that you're after? You don't. Here's the name. It's called the Logos. Hey, you know how Charlie Kirk was someone who used to hurt people by debate, used to abuse words to get people to act against their own interests? You've seen all the other debate podcasts and slop YouTube channels that have a fascist equal to a understanding person because they're in a debate and everyone's opinion's equal. You know how you hate that because it sucks? and you don't know what the real way of having these conversations is, it's the dialectic. It's called the dialectic. That's what you're after. That's what your soul yearns for. It's the lack of dialectic that makes you pissed off. Hey, that model you wish politicians had always so there wasn't ever corruption, that's the logos. That's what your soul yearns for. That's why you're frustrated, the lack of the logos. That's just the name of it. It's important to know what it is. It helps everyone. How many people have been open to listening to that? I could count the numbers in one hand. That's philosophy. I hate you. You're of a certain kind. No, that's not philosophy. That's Aristotle. Yeah, I know better. No courage. Certainty. I know better. Hey, I'd rather troll you. I'd rather pretend to be a knower while I shoot down these words than actually fucking learn anything. But that's the essence of the book. Well, as well. Not just understanding the purpose to life, nailing down those stages of evolution and cognitive development, using understanding itself, no opinions. Hey, when we understand the nature of what it means to be a believer, conflict between whole, part, same. Hey, whole, part, like, unlike, same, different. These aren't physical things. These aren't opinions. These are things that are always true universally. That's why it's understanding. Others to others. Hey, that's a category. Not just a random category we made up. It's one of the 4 categories of the logos that are universally true always. Other to other. Division. They are other to others. They're other than other people in their group. They're other to understanders, and they're other to their own spirit. Because the spirit yearns for truth. But will play along with their ignorance. So, if that's the name of what everyone really wants, the logos, and the name of the paradigm we want all our politicians and spiritual leaders to have, if that's the name of the game of how to solve problems, to move from belief to understanding, and that's the name of the art that does both, the dialectic, then that's what we need to share. It's called the logos, the art's called the dialectic, and the study's called philodianoia. That's it. Oh, one more thing. That art and that study and that structure, if you apply it to your dreams, you can unlock all of the highest states of mind and spirituality. You don't have to be a monk or an ascetic, wear a funny robe, or join a cult, or give your heart to Jesus, or Muhammad, or Joseph Smith, or Xenu, or Lord Xenu, or whatever. You don't have to do any of that shit. That very same art you're here to master can be applied to dreams to awaken your own spiritual development and to help you in your quest to remove your own unsuspected beliefs. Dream analysis. And the name for awakening that realization is awakening the new dawn to the new age of reason, where humanity can be united in mind, not united in hate, not united in ignorant belief, not united in hurting foreigners as racists do. United in the mind, because there's no unity in that. It's always division. It's only ever going to end in a pile of dead bodies. It only ever has, and it only ever will in principle. That's what belief is in definition. And the 5th category, a mass of difference, can only end in those fascists taking over. It was always going to be Trump, because the left rejected. Hey, that's the thing. Even if you say, oh, well, I'm not a MAGA, you're still influenced by it. I'm not a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. You're still influenced by Abraham. That's the thing. You have to go through the art of removing that unsuspected influence. That's midwifery. And you have to go through the work to developing understanding. That's philodianoia. So without that, yeah, the Democrats let the fascists take over. Of course. Inevitable. And when the believers took over, all they do is attack what they fear, understanding mind and self, and they always act in conflict, sadistically, and shutting down. Yep. Easy. They always act that way. They always will act that way. It shouldn't have been a surprise. By the way, the fact that it shouldn't have been a surprise because all of this is simple understanding applied to cognitive development is why they call the book, where all of the stages of development are outlined with the logos, the Parmenides, they call it the greatest book never read. We wouldn't have had to go through the Holocaust, the many genocides, including current, extreme wealth inequality, cruelty. We wouldn't have to go through any of that if we only read the fucking book. Now you can say, well, that's a bit harsh because we can only read the book recently because we've only had a translator who's gone through the work to address their false beliefs and learn understanding to give us a good translation. Fine. And we needed to wait till a special kind of unique person to arise in our ranks of human beings to rediscovered what was buried after Socrates, midwifery and dream analysis, to provide the conditions for a translator to go through that. Fine. Okay. But now it's done. Now we can read the translator is called Balboa. You can find a Balboa translation of Parmenides, read it for yourself. And you can find the book is called Philosophical Midwifery, A New Paradigm for Understanding Human Problems, written by Pierre Grimes. You can read that yourself. And by the way, you get dreams every night, so you don't even have to download a PDF. You can practice the dialectic that you learn in both philosophy and midwifery to your dreams, to master the art of dialectic, and get the guidance from your dreams. Then maybe it's a bit harsh saying, why the heck haven't we read this book? Nevertheless, we can do it now. And that's what we do here. We read it, we have fun, we wonder about how to do it with the greatest level of mastery, and ingrain it into our soul and way of being such that wherever we find ourselves, in any situation, in any lifetime, in any dimension, it will be our way of being, following the logos that we do from our own internal motivation, not because we're going to get punished by Jesus in the afterlife. It's not external motivation or extrinsic motivation. It's not fear of violence or punishment. It's love. Love and logos, baby. That's the game. So, now that we know that, let's continue to carry the questions we have. How do we understand more about the dialectic? How do we understand more about the nature of knowledge or being? The other questions, well, how do we go from that to the self? What if you know reality as knowledge? What's beyond knowledge? How do you know that? And of course, how do we share it with our fellow man? And can we understand all of the possible reactions to this such that we can understand them within its own hierarchy, within understanding itself, so we can go, oh yes, of course, you are violently opposed to understanding, you're here. You're open, but you're not willing to learn, you're here. Oh, you are willing to learn, but you don't want to change your identity, oh, you're here, etc. So we can artfully guide people through the process and be Zeus. What's Zeus? Zeus is the personification to help us remember our ultimate goal, which is to be our authentic self. That's the source of all that exists, even knowledge and being, but to be guided by divine wisdom through which we can take care of all things living and non-living. That's the goal. And it's the goal that we keep our eye on in loving relationships. It's the third member of your loving relationship, but it's also what our love of understanding is the same. We do this game because we're naturally inspired. That's Aphrodite. We love that it works. We love that we can have these experiences. We love we can put the pieces together. We love that we can... Isn't it neat that we can solve human problems? With like 2 words, belief and understanding. That's it? Human problems are just that simple. Isn't that neat? That once you understand something, it's simple and obvious? I think it's really, really fucking neat. We love that. That we can come out of the confusion about the chaos in the world into something simple and obvious. By the way, what's more simple and obvious than the self? Oh. But seems to be that we have to go through all of the confusion to see what was there the whole time. So, we love it. So we're in the game. We love that it comes together, that we can see the holes, that we can elevate ourselves to higher. So Emma says the more holes, the better. What she's talking about is Aphrodite.
I've been a battle freaks. What feminists want, do a pog. I'm too pure. I'm cute. Like, the more holes, the better.
There we go. Emma says sometimes on my random board, the more holes, the better. She means Aphrodite. That we can transcend to perceive greater, the whole of all beliefs, the whole of understanding as a way of being through the dialect, the whole of knowledge, the whole self, which may include the whole of everything. The more holes, the better, says Emma. And then we say to Emma,
Talking about a bunch of slop.
You're talking about a bunch of slop if you're not doing it this way. But we are, so she's fantastic.
Call a crackhead.
No need to call a crackhead. That's beauty. The love and inspiration that keeps us in the game. But the game itself is Apollo, the god of philosophy. But as we go through this reading and putting the pieces together, we keep our mind focused on the end of the journey, the source of all, so that we can realize that when we turn towards Zeus as our higher mode of being, we've completed our journey. There's an end to the game. What's the source of all? Zeus. So we focus on Zeus as we put Aphrodite and Apollo together. And what happens if you get Aphrodite and Apollo together? Boom, boom, boom. You get higher and higher levels of understanding and beauty, or love and logos, till ultimately Hermes. Hermes is the dialectic, the leader of individual souls into the philosophical life, and dialectic, which is the profound activity of the ousia, our capacity to turn around and know ourselves. In time through understanding, out of time in knowledge, and then all at once in a certain kind of way with the self. That's Zeus. Whoops. That's Zeus. So that's the significance of, that's what theology is. Putting a character or a personification as an analogy on these principles so that we can nail down, understand, remember, and talk about more easily, and even tell stories to share it, these metaphysical principles that are true for everyone and for always. So the opposite of dialectic, opposite of debate, dialectic. Hermes. He has the shoes on his feet to race us to Zeus really quick. All right. Good review. This book bangs. How many other books could get to all that and lay it out so clearly and simply other than this one? None. This book is the best. Best book, number 1. Let's get to reading. Here's the book. If you want to find this book at your local bookstore or library, you have to go to the section called Bangers. Speaking of bangers, why is my... Maybe if I do this. That's better. Banger section of your library. So here's where we ended off. Gone through the dreams. Gone through the dreams. Gone through the different triads of the gods that represent those 4 triads that are the metaphysical principles, or the causes and principles for our existence, for all existence, and for our soul's development. And we arranged them in a hierarchy because that's part of understanding. And we went from bottom to top because I'm a bottom guy. No, because, what does that mean? Because Socrates says, should we start by the soul's movement from the top down or upward anagogically? We start up from the bottom because that's where we kind of find ourselves when we're born as humans. We forget where we come from. Then as a family, we get our false beliefs we have to go through the art to remove. Okay. So all of those are, so it's a wonder for, oh, by the way, I said last time, so we came across, well, how do we do this? How do we do our best to share, especially if sharing is one of the 4 aspects of philodianoia? The dialectic is something that you use to, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, to find the truth. Apollo, that's philosophy. To remove what's false. Artemis is twin sister, that's midwifery. Dream analysis, which is both, same dialectic, but also you use it to share the dialectic. You use the dialectic to share the dialectic, to structure your stories in mythology and structure your conversations with others. So, hey, by the way, there's this new game in town, and you're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard.
And one of the ways is introducing something beautiful and rational. Harmoniously ordered is rational, and beautiful in its simplicity or wholeness. Now, I talked about there are some streamers who I've come across, or content creators who are that way. And if people are in awe, then, and music does a similar thing. That's where I come in. I'm not the cutest streamer on Twitch yet. You wait till I get rich and I get all of my Botox and plastic surgery. I'll be the handsomest boy. But I do play music, so that does present something beautiful and harmonious that people can get curious about. And so Socrates says you use that curiosity to introduce them to the dialectic. That's the whole point. Because that wonder awakens their own intrinsic awe and desire to understand the cause. I talk about it, people who have that wonder, they say, how long have you been playing? And I don't like that question. And I try and sidestep it by talking about a more genuine cause of music, or a more genuine cause in my ability to participate in music. I had to go through a lot of midwifery and dream analysis to free up all of the beliefs, growing up in a family that was violently opposed to any sort of music or beauty or understanding or love. So difficult, but had to go through this. So I'll either talk about that, which is 2 kinds of the dialectic, or the dialectical principles behind the inherent beauty and order, Aphrodite and Apollo, of music itself. So if someone themselves wants to participate or wants to know the causes, that's an ousia. And so, Socrates says that's when you can introduce them to the dialectic. That sounds nice, but how exactly do you do that? I don't know, but he did mention that he uses people's own language. What are you interested in? Are you a blacksmith? Are you a tanner? Are you a shoemaker? Well, then I'll use blacksmithery terms. Because the same movement from model to copy that you use in making shoes or making... What do blacksmiths make? broadswords. To make your broadsword is the philosophical principle of model to copy that's expressed in being, or justice, or beauty itself, or ousia, or knowledge, into our physical world. Or, as we've been saying, knowledge into understanding. Allowing us to know all these things. We rediscovered Socrates. This is Socrates, but we could rediscover him because this isn't a belief. We killed Socrates and we lost his beliefs. We killed him before he did his mythology. And of course, Plato removed this and this. And Aristotle removed this. So we lost everything. That's why the last 2,000 years have been so terrible. Since the Dark Ages. We lost all four. But we can rediscover it because it's universal. Or in other words, there is a universal model that's called knowledge or being that is reflected into understanding. So use black, so you can talk about that model to copy and its ideal expression either in the dialectic or being creating the physical world of becoming by using their logos, their words, their terms, their interests. So I said, that sounds neat. This weekend, when I play music, I will try to do that. My first attempt was 2 nights ago. I'm recording this at the end of my Saturday night, but my Friday night, I tried it. It went terribly. It was a shit show. I ran into a family of believers. Holy fuck, it's difficult to deal with a whole family. You got mother there, like keeping an eye on things, deciding when the conversation's going to end. You got the little, 5-year-old kid who can see that the whole family is angry because they're having their religious beliefs challenged, and he wants to punch things. He wants the attention to show that he's a good believer, which is ironic because the conversation was about what's the cause of the conflict in the world, belief. And here is a young believer trying to punch me or kill the non-believer. And you got the sister trying to show mum she's just like her, and well, I believe in Jesus, and I believe he's in my heart, and I think the world would be better if everyone loved it, because Jesus was really about love. And he rose from the dead, don't you know? No, that didn't happen. It was added to the book. You can read Bibles and they say that. It was added. There was no resurrection in Mark. Added 200 years later by the church. No, that's not true. You're a kid. You don't know anything. What the fuck? Why was your reaction to new information like that? No, I didn't say that. I tried my best to keep the thread going on a dialectic, but fuck me. Trial by fire. To be fair, there was one kid, the older brother, I think, or the lad in a bunch of, there was a little kid was a dude, but mainly women, and the matriarch, who fed this child abuse horseshit into their, I mean, it is. It's not recognized as child abuse because we are living in a sick world, but it is. By definition, it's to teach fear of understanding mind and self, to believe false beliefs from Abraham that allow you to kill, because it's the root analogy. So that's all happening. But the kid, it's like, you can't teach understanding. You can't teach someone 2 and 2 is 4 if they believe 2 and 2 is 5. You just can't. There's always going to be conflict in the world. We just need enough people to love Jesus. So I said, I bet you can. Bet you can teach me 2 and 2 is 4. Go ahead. And all of this scouse, don't you dare listen to this heathen from his family. He did. He went like this. Well, yeah, look, that, and that, and that. He gave it a go. And I said, what did you ask me to use? I didn't believe you. What were the steps? You'd asked me to look at your fingers, right? Yeah. That's using my own vision. I didn't have to believe you. I could use it myself, right? And you put these two together, right? And then you're asking me to conclude for myself, not believe, right? And I could confirm my conclusion by counting the fingers in my own experience for myself. I didn't have to believe you or your mum or anyone. And so while I started with a false belief that 2 and 2 is 5, I was able to overcome by following those steps of engaging my own thinking and seeing and concluding and following reason and testing my conclusion. That's the difference between belief and understanding. And that was about when the mother started freaking out. Well, excuse me, we have to go. Can we pray for you? Fuck no. No. So that's very condescending after everything we've just been saying. Well, you can say no. Can I? Do I have your permission? But to his credit, he was thinking, he was curious, he was wondering, I could see. And as the 5-year-old and the women left, he lingered a little bit and he was puzzled. And he was in conflict. But we've seen that in the book. That's still a birth. Let's see it. I was curious because after using the logos to define Jesus' own belief tradition, that they are others from others in that they differ from the other group. Others from others is one of those 4 categories of the dialectic, the structure of reason and knowledge, the logos. Self to self, definition, self to others, demonstration or function, others to others, division, and other back to self, synthesis, analysis, or conclusion. Def, dem, div, conc. Others to others, division. They are always different from the other group, who seek their spiritual path within themselves and the use of the mind, like we were pointing to with the 2 and 2 is 4. They stand alone from those who use the mind to know the mind. Otherwise, they would have to abandon their God, and they would be able to follow the command to know the self. Know thyself. So a believer has to remain within their self-imposed limits and know that even among their group, they have betrayed the self to follow their God's will. Every member of that family knows they're different from it. The brother knows he's not while his sister was saying, I know about Jesus and I know about, he lived with her. He knows that she's full of shit. And he doesn't agree with, who agrees with everything their sister thinks? Of course not. Yeah, even within their group. But also that he knows, they all know. I mean, they enjoy playing the knower and they enjoy hurting people, and the little kid enjoys punching non-Christians. Sadism, it's part of belief. But they also know that they've betrayed their self to follow their parents' or God's will. So in relation to each other and within themselves, they know they have sacrificed themselves in obedience to their God among them and different to others within the group, others to others within themselves, others to others who use their mind and can actually know the self. So among themselves, they experience this tension since they are like themselves and like each other, but on the other hand, they experience that they are unlike those members of the other system and suffer that loss while also keep it to themselves, keeping it from one another. Tension. Believers are always tension. There's always something new to be outraged about on Fox News. There's always a new victim to inflict your hate. It's the Jews, it's the Muslims, it's the foreigners, it's the woke. Woke is the term for today. Everything you don't like is woke. Fascism. Or no, it's just what it means to be in belief. That's it. It's just that simple. Belief versus understanding. So Jesus has followed along and says, well, I think you can say that. Even though they accept this limitation, says Socrates, they still can function with a partial logos and achieve everyday goals, which of course must be consistent with the demands of their God. But they must agree not to free themselves nor enter the logos. That's the conflict and tension. Don't you dare teach that crazy musician that 2 and 2 is 4. That's entering the logos. They are free to master the everyday world and ignore the furthermost reach of the mind, or else they will lose what they have treasured the most. That clan, that family group, that group identity, and with their God. But Jesus is in my heart. But Joseph Smith is in my heart. But Lord Zenu is in my heart. But Dear Leader is in my heart. It sounds so fucking stupid if you have some integrity and include every other Dear Leader. Don't just say, but Jesus is in my heart. Do everyone else. Be fair. But Zeus is in my heart. But Moses is in my heart. But Abraham is in my heart. But Joseph Smith, do the Mormons. Joseph Smith is in my heart. Do the Scientologists. But Lord Zeno is in my heart. See? Starting to sound a bit ridiculous. Integrity. So they participate in limit while their own spirit is unlimited, since it willingly plays whatever subordinate role is their fate. Your true spirit willingly goes along with your injustice and your problems. That's the puzzle. Otherwise, we wouldn't have problems. Without problems, we wouldn't have a imperative, moral, ethical, philosophical imperative to learn the dialectic, master what we're here to master, the use of the logos and understanding. Therefore, while it seems like there is so much injustice in the world, there would be even greater injustice to our soul within its movement beyond this lifetime, including its reincarnations, if the soul, the spirit or soul wouldn't willingly play along with its subordinate role of its fate. Fate. If you were one of those members in that family, your whole life is preordained. Not because it's written in some book, but because if you can dictate the limits of the functioning of any individual, this is your image of the self, this is your idea of what it means to be a knower, this is the beliefs you have to imitate in place of understanding. Your whole life can be predicted. Fate. Now, Jesus says, okay, now that's more difficult to agree with, but at this point I have nothing to oppose it. Socrates continues, and if one's way of being can be descended from one's model, that's the significance of the model. No model in fifths. Democrats. No model. Or rather, their model is everything is anything. It's all relative. It's all personal opinion. It's all garbage. But we're not talking about the fifths, we're talking about the fourths, believers. So if your way of being descends from one's model, then as the God of Abraham was willing to murder his son as a sacrifice to his God, so the followers of Abraham must be willing to murder others to fulfill their will of the God. Ever wondered why the pages of human history are soaked in blood? There it is. It's one sentence. Holy shit!
Wow.
Did I mention this book's a banger? We can add, so it's not just one sentence. So you get this one sentence. The book would be worth the price if it was just that one sentence, folks. But you get a whole different sentence coming after. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
A win-win. Get another sentence as well. For no extra price. No extra charge. We can add to that as one identifies with one's self-image. Okay, so it even applies to everyone because we all have a self-image from childhood. These followers of Abraham must act according to that image. And so they have a fixed way of being that limits and blocks their spiritual development. As we've been talking about, that's the nature of ignorance for everyone, but in particular, there is a certain class of religious ignorance that's the cause of, well, war and genocide and shit for thousands of years. So, a root analogy that is tied to one's self-image, and you act according to that image, that causes your fixed way of being, and if it's a fixed way of being, it limits and blocks your spiritual development, which is simply from belief to understanding. Of course it does, it's a belief. Now here's what we're after. Jesus says, I would not have expressed that in such terms, nor do the followers of Abraham, nor does anyone in that family of Christians, or any Christian who I've met and told this to, or I haven't told anyone yet. Yeah, I have, but not directly. They wouldn't express it in that way, but I do see why you use that language to describe them. He's still got his image, he's still got his identity, he's still got his fixed way of being, he's still got his block, but he can still see that it makes sense. I'm not going to change yet, because that would require upending or dissolving at least an aspect of his self-image. He's not yet at that level of birth, but this is at least stage 1. This is still a birth. And we know that because Socrates says, very good, Jesus, you just gave birth. Midwife. To just what I expected from you. So, could I have expected anyone in that family to drop their family way of being? Fuck no. Drop a self-identity, their mask, which gives them a role within that family that they're still stuck in? No. Could I have overcome their fate? Probably not. But did at least one member of that family go with that being encouraged to do it, and he did it sheepishly and reluctantly, but he did listen, he did follow, did listen to the conclusion, and he did stick around at the end to say thank you, and his reaction to me was one of curiosity and confusion and friendliness. The other ones were monsters. They were unpleasant when they were saying goodbye. He wasn't. Could I have expected any more? Well, on reflection, probably not. So could I have been like Socrates? Very good, Chad. You gave birth to just what I expected. So, maybe not a disaster. Now, the second night, the night that I just finished, wasn't a trial by fire situation with a whole family unit, and went better. There were a few good conversations, and yeah, ended in a similar amount of confusion. Well, no, his was I wouldn't say that, and no one in my family would, but I see why you're saying it. Last night was, wow, that's brilliant. I completely see it. That's a fantastic way of putting it. And in both instances, I tried to use the words that flowed naturally from the conversation. And last night, because that was what we read last time, Socrates saying, I try to use their logos, what they're interested in, their analogies, even their modern cultural references. So the puzzle that came up was what I used, But last night, it was the person's words. He said, well, this is what I think. This is what I would like to experience. Timelessness. And this is what I think about problems. We're sort of ingrained into certain beliefs in our upbringing. And he didn't say beliefs, ways of thinking. So I ran with that and said, oh yeah, so those are the ways that we are ingrained to think, or beliefs. I added the logos because that's my background. I can put a word on that. And that's good because it summarizes. That's what we're doing with theology. The end goal that we're after is Zeus. It's just one word. And that helps the conversation flow a bit better. And you can, now that you've concluded, you've got he's thought about it for a long time and read lots of books. And so unifies or concludes or synthesizes his words that he was talking about, his own division. And then we could take the next step. Oh, by the way, you might want to read this philosophical midwifery book, which specifically addresses what you've identified as the blocking ways of being or beliefs, and allows that experience to experience everything outside from your individual perspective, his words, timelessly, his words, what we call knowledge or nous. So those were the ones that I introduced. But it was easy to do because we have been using the logos to define each of those categories. In other words, while we just read that passage that showed that believers are in conflict between the self-logos pairs of like and unlike, you are like the others because you accept the limits, but your soul is unlimited because it will go along with it. So there's the conflict between the two. Or you are like the other believers, but you're in conflict because you feel unlike. So the reason why believers are always in conflict isn't because they are and we can see them. No, this is the cause. But also we recognize that a way of understanding the functioning that we're after is a state of being, of knowledge which is timeless or out of time. Understanding is the same logos in time. It's not a conflict relationship, it's a harmonious relationship, or intelligent and caring, or the word that brings those two ideas, intelligent and caring, together, providence. Providence. Intelligent and caring. Or intelligent and, well, divine wisdom is intelligence. Care is this, care for all living, non-living, Zeus. So the providential functioning of Zeus, which is our goal, the source of all that exists, or the self. So while being the self and the source, while functioning providentially, using wisdom, which is the knowledge, which is timeless, and the understanding, which is in time, the two together is Zeus. Or providence, the functioning of Zeus. Or the self, you, when you reach your end, which you focus on as we read, because that's Apollo. So when he said, oh, I wish I could see it all out of time, it's like, oh, I know what you're after. Knowledge. And then we talked about the needs to gain understanding, which is in time, of what you will experience out of time, so you can get there and make sense of it when you are there and integrate it afterwards, and then go beyond to self. Zeus. So the fact that we can recognize these as the fundamental building blocks of definitions of understanding means you can recognize them in your conversation. I didn't know that guy. I never met him before. Just use this word. Oh, okay, I know what you're after. You want to do what? Experience out of time everything in time? He says, I want to step outside and see all of the world out of time. Oh, by the way, belief, stage 4 is a conflict between them. Stage 5 is a disconnect. You only have the parts. Modern Democrats. Understanding is the providential relationship between the two. But knowledge is both at once. To experience in a timeless way everything that can function in time, or the model for all time, all at once. He's talking about knowledge. He wants to have knowledge. Neat. I don't have to do any work because he's already... Well, I didn't have to do as much... Well, different kind of work. Not work. Played a different kind of game than the first guy the previous night, who had to overcome the conflict to participate in understanding. He was after knowledge. But he could recognize that blocks were conflict or belief. And I also added, hey, by the way, you also better understand that to get there and to go beyond. So, yeah, that was the thing that I said a couple of days ago that I would test out, because he did open with, how long you been playing guitar? No, it came after. He was in awe of the music, and then after this conversation, he kind of sat there for a while and then looked at me and said, how long you been playing guitar? And I said, I don't like that question. He looked at me, huh? Because that's a question about time. And I gave him a wink and said, I want to be timeless. And then he laughed because he got it. He saw the difference between the cultural indoctrination and to talk about causes in a certain way that he himself brought up as blocks, and how it's different from what he himself said what is his goal. And that's the fun in the logos. So, went okay last night. There was also another guy who seemed to we weren't able to have a conversation in that level of depth. But he did talk about a song that I was a little bit familiar with, that I quickly learnt while I did a version from the internet, but then I learnt a better one for when it came back. But the song itself addressed beliefs that had limited him growing up. He identified with the song in the lyrics in the song. And the song was about not caring about how people try and put you down and trying to be free or unlimited with it. So it was the same kind of thing, but expressed within the song itself. Which seemed to be a significant moment for him to reflect on that song and participate in its beauty and rational order. But that I think that was as far as we could have gone with him. But I think that was still good. Yeah, I think that interaction was pretty good too, I think. Anyway, back to the book. Okay, back in the book again. Alright, so giving birth. And so that was my review of my own experience, which is part of it. That's the game. You learn from the book, you go out and apply it, and then you have ups and downs and you reflect on it, which is Usia, and you reflect on it ideally using the text itself, the text of your dreams and midwifery sessions to understand your problems or blocks, and the text of this book to understand the good times, because there are good times. Why has it taken us 2,500 years to rediscover what was there to be seen in the past? These later philosophers discovered more about your way of being, Socrates, than those present around you, including the fantastically smart Plato. If so, why do we have to wait 2,500 years for later thinkers to see what was already there to be seen in the past? Shall we say that later philosophers' visions were not obscured by a need to add what they wanted to believe to what was being revealed? Yes. Yes, that's why it's new, and that's why I try my best to find the people who are open to it. Say, hey, by the way, you want that model? It's called the logos. You're sick of debate, but you're after, it's called dialectic. You want a new way of being? It's called Philodianoia. That's it. It helps to put names on them. Hey, I don't have to do all the damn work. You do it. You tell your friends those things. The new way of being is Philodianoia. The art we're all here to learn, and the meaning of life is the dialectic. The cause of all problems is belief, and our purpose is to move from that to understanding. And the model we need to use for all our spiritual and political leaders and insist on is called the logos. You tell them. Don't let me get flamed in chat rooms and shouted at by religious families. You do it. Let me do all the work. Come on, guys. All 100 of my followers on Twitch. How many do I have? How big is my army? How big is my army? How big is my army? What's going on? Why does it keep repeating saying my army? Wait, it's on loop.
Doing an interrogation room. He wasn't being interrogated at the time. He was.
Okay, but Sweet Anita. Oh, it's Sunday, so it's Sweet Anita's Funny Videos Day. That's not relevant. She's someone who likes to understand things and share understanding. She's doing okay. What am I after? Create a dashboard. How many followers do I have? How many people have to go out and 80? That's not very many. I need 25 followers on Twitch to get affiliate. Now, this is something important. One of the people in Discord said they would prefer to be able to watch these videos live on Twitch in a lower bit rate, so to not use up his data. That only happens sometimes because priority is given to Twitch affiliate people, because it requires more of their bandwidth to send out like 1080p, you know, 720, whatever. But I understand, because when I'm on my phone, I use 160 or audio only. But I can only have that option for you guys if I become a Twitch affiliate. Now, there are 4 things I need to get to be affiliate. Have at least 25 followers. I have 80. So you guys are doing great. Which means 20 Twitch members have to go out and share the name of the logos as the model. the dialectic as the art, and the way of being as philodianoia, and the significance of dream analysis. You go do that, 80 of you, and come back, because I'm sick of getting yelled at by Christians. Okay? Stream 4 days a month, I do that. Stream 4 hours a month, done that. There's only one more thing, to have a minimum of 3 average viewers on Twitch over 4 days. So, if we can arrange a time that suits 3 people, maybe join the Discord and say, this is I don't know, talk, we'll figure something out. For 4 days, just doesn't say 4 consecutive days, and doesn't say how long the stream has to be either. So maybe we do a half-hour stream, 4 different days, with like 5 people hanging around. Maybe you can all talk amongst yourselves, or we can I don't know, whatever we do. Just so I can get affiliate, so we can have options for lower video quality or audio only. I know I would like that, because I do those things when I'm on my phone using data. Or I could just get better at this and get a bigger following. I don't know. We could try both. How many followers do I have on YouTube? Audience. Community. Someone with a message from 2 months ago. Jeff. Stop lying about the random soundboards. Well, my name's not Jeff, so... How many people do I have? Oh, 148 subscribers on YouTube and 80 on Twitch. No, 198. Yeah. So what's that? 100 and about 250. So all 250 of you go out and tell people the name of those things that we all seek. Don't make me get in trouble all the time. Okay. Oh, and by the way, speaking of all 250 of you, those who have ascended and known the nature of the true realities, knowledge, and of the good, the self, Zeus, having returned to the cave, the believers now see 1,000 times better and know what the images are and know what they're images of, because you've seen the realities. These images are what man takes as reality, and they permeate his thoughts and dreams. If you can realize this, how dreams and thoughts are the way mind communicates to you, your thoughts keeping your images and problems alive, your dreams representing that along with the instructions on how to remove those problems. And you can see both because you have gone through the process of removing yours yourself to leave the cave, and you've seen the realities in knowledge, and you've understood them because your spiritual method is philosophy, is philodianoia. Then so you can understand what they're supposed to be. Then you can come back into the cave, or the regular believing folk, and see that it's through thoughts and dreams that mind communicate to each and prepares one for their own vision of reality. That's the essence of the noble pursuit of philosophy. So there's another thing you can do. Go through that, do all your work, get that all cleaned up, become Zeus, and then help others reflect on their thoughts and dreams to separate the wheat from the chaff, the realities that you have wisdom of, and the images that you had an experience of what it takes to go through the removal of, to help them develop too. And that's what Socrates says as the test for true excellence. Okay, so This is Jesus saying, hang on a second. I'm left wondering if Plato's Socrates is an idealized version of what he saw as your life and practice. Has it not been said that if you teach that kind of excellence, you become a friend of the god? Socrates? Could it be that in the imitation, friend of God, in the imitation of Socrates, we can reach that excellence? Now, interesting that Jesus is using imitation. He represents belief, which is imitation, right? But can you imitate excellence? Let me try. It's easy to imitate ignorance. Anyone can do a Trump impression. I'm an idiot. I want everyone to love me. I'm going to make lots of people suffer. And I hate people who look different than me, like my daddy. I don't know. See? I'm not even an impressionist. But can you imitate Socrates? How would you do it? You have to... He doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. You'd have to be imitating the midwifery, right? Dialectic. Look at me imitating Socrates. Oh, I saw you use the word limit and unlimited. Well, I'm going to use that to help you recognize the image of limit and unlimited that you have and compare it to what the truth of limit and limit is, and respect to the other thoughts and dreams you've been having to help you purify yourself from your false beliefs and develop a mastery of logos and language yourself as a preparation for that vision. Only as a gag, because I'm just imitating Socrates. And then everyone will say, and then you'll pull it off, and then you'll hear, could you imitate that? If you did, would it be just as good as the real thing? Please do. Imagine if comedians were doing that in their stand-up or on TV shows as a gag. Be the best gags ever. Everyone would say. And they'd say bazinga.
Wow.
And then Aaron Brown would say,
And I find that very entertaining.
he would find it entertaining. So can you imitate that excellence, says Jesus? Interesting summary and questions you raise. Then those who followed him would have the task in finding within his writings a model for that imitation. Since you caught my meaning, even though I used belief language like imitation, and you upgraded it, which is, again, what we talked about, like the people I talked to, they had their language, and I listened and helped by introducing certain, not introducing words, but directing them to certain words a little bit. Therefore, fire. Hey, Isadori, why is it your first time chat? You got a new handle. You've gone from Isadori to Isadori1. Oh, that was your YouTube name, maybe. Different from your Twitch name. Glad to have you here. I was just saying, in order to get preference so we can do the reduced bit rate for your phone and audio, I need to get Twitch affiliate. I just need to have on 4 days an average of 3 viewers. So maybe we can organize something on Discord just for like to hang out for half an hour. Oh, neat. Yeah. Maybe do like a half-hour stream 4 different days just so I get affiliate. And for the philosophy too. Well, I'm glad that you're here for philosophy too. So maybe when our channel gets a bit bigger or something, enough people in Discord, we can arrange 4 streams where everyone's there. Yeah, rally the troops. Just to save your like phone data. So, Jesus wants to know, can you imitate Socrates? If Plato didn't reach Socrates, could you imitate his idealized vision? And Socrates said, well, let me take imitation belief and introduce what understanding uses, model, and also, where do we find the model? In the text. So we have to find within his writings a model. Jesus said, all right, fair enough. You caught my meaning, that's enough. Can you show me how we ought to judge if we have reached that excellence? And then he said, this is Plato's test. Knowing the true realities, being, and the good, or the self. Now as you go back down to the physical world with what do you call them? The normies, the believers, the image thinkers, the zombies and cavemen. You can see 1,000 times better than them because you've gone through the process of removing your images yourself, and you've had experience in knowledge of those realities that they are distorted images of, and you've got there through understanding. So it wasn't just a trip, it wasn't an overwhelming experience of everything all at once. You can actually use understanding in your experience and after to make sense of those things, so you can see the realities: justice, beauty, goodness, self, mind, logos, and what people take as images, right? An image of the self or the real self, an image of knowing, often cruelty or being a troll or hurting people, an image of understanding, repeating catchphrases, or just being a contrarian and just saying, disagree. I have no medical training, but listen to me, Dr. Fauci. I disagree. I'm just an equal to you now. We have equal and opposite opinions, I'm afraid. I am a scholar of medicine. I did my own research on Joe Rogan and Facebook. But you can recognize it because you can see it. But also realize that the images are what man takes as reality, and they permeate his thoughts and his dreams. But also those two kinds of communication, what a hypothesis we're loosely playing with from our readings of Plato is, one is the kaka daemon, which is, kaka is Greek for bad, and one is the daemon, is good. Our everyday thoughts keep our fears and doubts alive, keep your problems going. Not just your fears and doubts, but your desires. I like being a troll. I like putting myself down in a certain kind of a way. I like playing out those kinds of sexual fantasies that put me in a certain role. Right? Fears and desires, and you need courage to not listen to them and instead follow the logos. That's until you don't need courage anymore, or courage upgrades into the true virtue. That's a different text. Nevertheless, you can recognize how the thoughts that keep telling you you're a small bean, you're not good enough, and your dreams, which highlight that drama and give you clues to, and also give you insights into your true self. So dreams can give you spiritual experiences. So everyone can be mystics. You don't have to, do Shaolin ninja techniques and stand on a bamboo stick, or do one-fingered push-ups, or meditate under a waterfall because you have dreams. So if you recognize that, you'll see how your images permeate your thoughts and dreams in those two different kinds of ways. And then you realize that that's how mind, capital M, no different from the mind you experienced as knowledge, communicates to everyone and prepares us for that vision. So that's the excellence and the essence of the noble pursuit of philosophy. So again, we've just read that. We read that earlier, But now that we've done the metaphysics and theology, we can link that awesome paragraph. By the way, what a paragraph. Holy fucking shit. A standard of Socratic excellence, or the excellence of mankind, in a paragraph. How many books have that? This book bangs so hard. Oh my god. The author of this book passed away shortly after it was published, but he did ask me twice what I thought of it, and I couldn't put it into words. I was gobsmacked. But I am happy that I was able to say both times, this is the best book I've ever read. I read it once, and I'm happy that I was able to communicate that, because every time we have a new stream, my god. My god. It bangs so hard it gives you CTE. It bangs so hard you're gonna have the brain damage of an NFL linebacker. Or a MMA fighter. That's how hard this book bangs. Divine luminosity, therefore... Oh, yeah, it bangs divine luminosity into your brain. It gives a new meaning to when you get knocked out and they say you see stars. Divine, yeah, Pierre Grimes speak, divine luminosity, yeah. I could have said the book illuminates. I was reading it and everyone in the coffee shop had to wear sunglasses. That's how luminous it was. So, this is the significance of the book There For Me. Yeah. And Isidori. By the way, I should have said to Pierre, by the way, there's this guy Isidori. He was so dumb when he first joined the stream, but we were only, 120 pages in, and he has divine luminosity. That's how good the book is. Now, I'm sorry about that first part. It's not true. I mean, how can anyone dumb find the stream? Speaking of dumb people, how come Asmongold's followers haven't joined me yet? Damn it. Like that will happen. So, so the significance of going through it and reviewing it the way we do now is that banger of a paragraph that you should get tattooed into your forehead in reverse so you can see it in the mirror, memento styles. Well, now we can integrate that into what we've seen here with Zeus. Because this excellence, or the ideal, we have also said is in our anagogic or upward moving journey of the soul. It's what we focus on in our activities, in our reading. That's Apollo. The idea that it's reachable and it's our natural state of self should inspire us. That's Aphrodite. The two working together is what we need to make use of to master the art we're here to master. That's Hermes, the dialectic. And that whole paragraph we just read would be how we can use divine wisdom, having ascended to understand and know the realities and the good. That's divine wisdom, but also to return to the cave to use that wisdom and your understanding of how it functions in a caring way through thoughts and dreams to take care of all living beings. So now we can go back to that paragraph which banged so hard you have to wear glasses when you're around Isidori now, because that's how bright he is. We can now add it to our image of Zeus. That's the significance of theology. So you can have a page in your book for Zeus. And as you got, like the same way you've got a page in your book for beauty and justice and things, so that every time you come across a quote from the text or any of the texts that we read, you can add it in. That's collecting the right opinions. And then once you've got enough of those, you can go back to them and organize them in the dialectic structure. That's the movement from right opinion to understanding. That's the nailing down of your right opinion, making it yours. And that's the preparation for your divine luminosity vision of knowledge. And that whole activity of getting there is a training or discipline or way of being that you can now use to your knowledge to go beyond, to know the self, which is Zeus. In a similar way, you can have that book for the right opinions about Zeus. You got this one from the text. You can go back and add that other paragraph. You can build up a whole list of things that you can tie with your image of Zeus. That's theology. And you can tell stories about Zeus. You can take all of these right opinions and represent them in stories or analogies or metaphors or similes. And I guarantee you, if you do that, any creation that you make is going to kick ass. Any anime or story or video game or movie or short story or poem that you make is going to resonate more with people because you are speaking about that which is true and therefore will resonate with souls, but also will be more meaningful as a work of art. And by the way, it's worth saying, as you go through that process of doing what we just described, make sure you've got another book or you flip it over the other way and you're collecting the wrong opinions that come up, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, the negative image of yourself, of the self, mind, and understanding. Everything that says you can't do it, everything that says you're just a small bean, how it sounds, what it makes you think of. All of that are clues that then once you've got enough, you can collect into, again, with the dialectic, into understanding. Not so that you reach knowledge, but so you can free yourself up from the false image of knowledge. And again, the cause of that, not the true self, like last time, but the false image of self. That's the purification. That's the freedom, which may even be more significant than the other one, where you have the true experience of knowledge, because this is a freeing yourself from problems. But you do both together. By the way, helping others to go through those two things, equal stages. One is wrong opinions, one is right opinions. One is a perfection, one is a purification. Using people's thoughts and dreams to do that as well. Well, to do that, to go through this, that's the greatest functioning. That's the art. That's Zeus. So as you do Zeus, you are learning the method for helping others to go through that same process, which allows you to function as Zeus. See? It all comes together. And then Owen Wilson's family says, "Wow." And his dad says, "Wow." And his mum says, "Wow." And his grandma says, "Wow." And his drunk uncle says, "Wow." Wow. Wow. And his hamster says, "Wow." Everyone in his family says, "Wow." So, this book bangs. So, Socrates says that's the test for Zeus, or excellence, or Socratic way of being. Not Platonic, and definitely not Stoic or Aristotelian. Boo. And Jesus says, well said, Socrates. Well said. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Or from the Gladiator movie, not yet. Not yet. Or from the Aliens movie, they come out at night. Mostly. Wait, they mostly come out at night. Mostly. Well said, well said. The chorus says, boo to that. The chorus says, no. The chorus says, boo. You can't understand dreams. Excellence is nothing special. Just ignore it. Reality is whatever you want it to be, whatever you make of it. There's no other reality in the physical senses. You boo. They say boo. But the anti-chorus that claps back with facts. Jesus, that one's long. That's enough. The anti-chorus claps back with the facts to own the haters with their copium and haterade, sniffing their copium vapes and drinking their haterade energy drinks. They say, this loud burst boasting is not trying to convince us, trying to convince yourself. By the way, take the risk, use your mind. You think life's about filling your life with empty physical pleasures and ignoring this challenge to see if there is really a meaning to be realized? Take the challenge. What do you have to lose? You know what you'll lose? One thing. Your cowardice. Snap. Ooh, snap. That's how you own the haters. Anti-chorus. Anti-chorus chats. Yep. Okay, and then we went on. So by the way, there's only one theme playing out in the Hellenic world, in their mythology. It's the will of Zeus. Oh, here we go. The will of Zeus expressing itself as providence, that divine care through wisdom. So what we just described as, and that we linked to Zeus, now the significance of doing that, linking it to the theology, he's linked providence to Zeus. So that Socratic excellence that we just described is linked to Zeus, and providence is linked to Zeus. Therefore, you can smush the two together and recognize the functioning of providence is what we just described. Go ahead and enlighten yourself. Level up. What term should we use? Not go Super Saiyan. What's awaken your Jinchuriki? No. Awaken your Sharingan? No. Awaken your like it's your own self. Your I can't use Bleach because the names for their like magic powers or awakenings are crazy. Like half German, half Japanese, and they're all like 18 paragraphs long. Awakening your own devil fruit. There we go. To awaken your own devil fruit and become the king of the pirates of your soul. Got there in the end. I couldn't get into Bleach at the start, but the starting from the 1,000-Year War arc, my goodness. The terminology goes over my head, but the art, the cinematography, the way it's not filmed, but have you seen the 1,000-Year Blood War arc? I'm halfway through it. Oh, the cinematography is great. Even like the little the way that they give the names of the episodes, it's integrated in a cool way. And I don't know. The thing about anime is the ones that work well because either consciously or not, they touch upon these principles that resonate with the soul. Yeah, well, I think they've done a reboot. Like a not a Netflix reboot, but there's a lot of like Netflix reboots that are really good. Like the old Bucky the Grappler, like, you know, crazy old animation. But the Netflix versions, it's pristine. Anyway, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc of Bleach is a new reboot, like 10 years later or something, and that's pretty cool. Even without having watched the first series. Although it's so good, I might go back and watch the movies. Bucky. Sounds like Bacchus, the god of wine. Bucky is... yeah, it's fun. You can go... like, the early ones were quite popular, if you can stomach the early animation. But then it does that reboot with the Netflix, like, budget. And the sound is good, and the pictures is really pristine. It's a bit silly, but you can have fun looking for the philosophical principles within it. That's what I do, just automatically, because now that we've been nailing them down with these 4 triads, you can look for, when is he developing an understanding, like Apollo? When is he inspired by seeing how things come together, finally putting it together, like Aphrodite? When does he master an art that he is able to benefit himself and others, like Hermes? Equally so for Artemis, Hera, Demeter. When is he using principles for determining what is good and bad, like Artemis? Feel more cultured watching the old animes. Yeah. Oh, but the new ones, like like Bucky's done through Netflix. I think that's why it's so good. I quite like One Punch Man because the sound design is really good. The animation is pretty cool. The gods of all the stories are gods of all stories. Yes. Yeah, these are the archetypes. And I have a theory that the ones that are good and resonate within culture are because they touch on these principles. But our game is everything that we do, we can look for them. You go for a walk in the park, look for all of them. Look for the power of Usia to turn upon ourselves and know ourselves in a way that can also reflect on others. That's Hera. Look for the principles for judging whether or not something's good and noble or false and harmful. And then look how the two of them can come to be and function for things to revert upon themselves that elevate existence. Can you see a flower using these 2 principles of Artemis and Hera to turn about upon itself and grow and elevate itself? Can you see a reflection of Demeter? Look for the... Pierre used to say this, is while you're riding your bike or walking along chewing gum or whistling Dixie. I don't know what the heck whistling Dixie means, but while you're whistling Dixie, can you see the 12 gods and everything? Do you see it? Anyway. Ares, Athena, Hestia, the source of all holes. I only see Aphrodite everywhere because... I won't finish that joke. You're inspired by beauty. Yeah. Or the capacity of seeing how wholes do come together, particularly the puzzles that you awaken in your reading, can come together in an insight, so long as you stay in the game and you keep developing questions and you keep reading, in a way that raises your soul up to a higher level of whole.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting the more holes, the better.
The more holes, the better. That's Aphrodite, inspired by beauty. Or when you see beauty, can you wonder about the source of it? What allowed the beauty in that beautiful woman to happen? Why is she beautiful and others not? What does one do with that beauty? Now, if you run into someone like that, with whom you can ask that question, then you are winning. Why do you think you have beauty? What do you think is the source of that beauty that emanates through your physical body? Do you think that beauty is connected with yourself? Are you more radiant and beautiful because you are being your authentic self? If there's beauty in other people, what makes? If you can have this conversation with someone beautiful, then, I mean, what more do you want? Because that's someone who you can have a relationship with, love and Logos, Aphrodite and Apollo. And if you're able to maintain that relationship, genuinely wanting to understand that person, and you want to cultivate that relationship, and you want to genuinely understand the source of the beauty and not just participate in physical beauty, then that relationship, by cultivating those questions and exploring the beauty that you see, or what Pierre Grimes would say, make love with the lights on, culminates in Hermes. What if they say beauty is subjective? Then you have an opportunity to practice Hermes, the dialectic. Then you can say, oh, let's read the Balboa translation of the Symposium together, because that's one idea of beauty. Or let's read the Is It All Relative book, which is a modern dialogue written by Pierre Grimes set in a cafe, in a Greek restaurant. You can go to a Greek restaurant and read it with her. Now, the Symposium gives you a dialectic that, because Socrates thought in a similar way, and Diotima, so she is the lover, you would say, and Socrates the beloved, because she was able to lead the dialectic in that instance and say, hey, if beauty is subjective, how do we have supermodels? How is some music nice to hear and some music garbage? I think the latter they call jazz. Or if beauty is just a physical thing or in the eye of the beholder, how can you be beautiful and there be a beautiful painting or a beautiful sunset? In other words, what's the idea of beauty that extends to physical things? Or even if it is subjective, how did I recognize it in you? I haven't taken a class in beauty. If it's in me somehow, where did I get it from? I don't remember learning it. Why did it smack me in the face as soon as I saw you? And why, whenever I see you, I can't turn away? Why do I have to tune into every stream? If I'm the person, not you, but some beautiful woman. In other words, if I have this experience, what was it that informed the recognition of it in my soul? That's the Phaedo. Socrates goes through that dialectic in the Phaedo. If she's open to any of these sorts of lines of questioning or reflecting on her opinions, then you're away. You can practice your reading, in Apollo, using the symposium, using the dialectic, using his little relative, using this book even. You can be inspired by that conversation and the person herself, reflecting that in herself or in whatever level of beauty you're able to perceive in her body or soul or mind. Apollo and Aphrodite. And so long as you maintain that relationship, you show, by the way, as we read earlier, actually let's read it again. If you cultivate that relationship, get to Hermes, the dialectic, which is the art we're here to master. What does Hermes do? Races you to your goal. Zeus, the way of being of the source of all, guided through divine wisdom, that you've been working on the art all the way in that relationship, allowing you to take care of all living things, which we've also just tied into providence. That's why you have to have a Zeus page in your notebook, because we've got this, and now we've got providence, the will of Zeus expressing itself beyond providence. The direct knowing of it might be beyond human reach, so it's beyond even divine wisdom. Maybe? That's a question. Now, we talked about let's not go back into it. Earlier in the book, he talks about, should we do it? The Phaedrus. The Phaedrus. So we have talked about the symposium and the Phaedrus earlier in how to establish and cultivate those love and logos relationships, which is a model for your own development and your own soul, and what it means to have a good relationship, and what to do with the with beautiful people. But yeah, we've gone through that a little bit, but find an open, generous soul dedicated to the pursuit of philosophy, and then you can welcome the two, body and soul. Cultivate the relationship through talks about excellence with the woman of what a good person ought to be and do. As a result, that relationship can give birth to not little babies, but works. The works that you can give birth to in that relationship can rival Homer and Hesiod. So we're talking about animes. The anime that you'll make will rival Homer and Hesiod. Now, Socrates didn't know about anime back then, but if he did, he'd say the animes, or if Netflix picks up your idea and you make an anime based on this, it would be better even than Bleach, One Piece, and Dragon Ball put together, and Arcane. I haven't watched that one yet, but I intend to. I hear it's good. He goes on to say this is what you can learn about that same kind of relationship from the Phaedrus. The way a lover should approach true beauty and join her in a sacred union is given an artful form in this dialogue, the Phaedrus, up here. The idea is simple enough. He presents it in terms that would make it vivid and vital. If the desire for the beloved is joined with the need to preserve and cultivate a meaningful relationship, it's not just a one-night stand, baby. And the manner of the courtship is gentle and serene. So, do that. And include an understanding of the beloved. Do your best to understand her and show a desire to understand her. Because the opposite way ruins it. The difficulty in achieving this goal is that the soul of man combines two forces. There is a chariot of your soul, and it has two horses pulling the chariot. One is noble and fair horse. One has powerful emotional drives that want instant gratification. The struggle between these two forces, reason controls one desire. Make sure your desire for your nobility desire within your soul, driving your soul, is led by reason. So everything we learn here. And the other one subdues the other one. Use your reason to subdue the gooning horse, as they say on Twitch. If you are successful in the struggle, it will gain the beloved. If not, it faces failure and shame. The image he presents is that of a charioteer managing the conflict of two powerful horses. Already done that. The plot of the drama focus on the struggle for spiritual enlightenment. This always occurs because there is no beloved more beautiful or more real than the experience of true enlightenment. The knowledge experience, the nous experience, your mind knowing yourself, is the most beautiful experience. So there's your model of beauty. So there goes subjectivity. If the mind, the experience of the mind, is where you remember beauty from and where your beauty leads you, if you join reason with your desire or Apollo with Aphrodite, well, there goes subjectivity. There goes nihilism. There goes stoicism. There goes materialism. There goes all the crappy isms that make us disconnected or physical or give up. The difference between the struggle of those seeking earthly beauty and those seeking the magnificent divine beauty is as vast as can be imagined. Remember, this is a beautiful soul as well as a body. Take body and soul together, because the thing that you see reflected in the physical is just a shadow. That's the cave of the shadows. Now, to do this even before you can remember the experience of beauty or you've left the cave requires courage. Courage to follow reason, because that gooning horse is strong and crazy. It's depicted as having like bloodshot eyes. I was playing music all night, so that's not why my eyes are a bit red. It's not an elegant divine horse. It's a stub-nosed, angry black horse with crazed eyes, and that's the gooning horse. That's the significance of understanding and a relationship and finding someone with a good heart and good head. Because your soul really seeks beauty, and you won't be fulfilled unless you get there. Says Logos, which means it's something you can gain an understanding of to see why it has to be the case necessarily and beautifully, and verify that understanding in direct experience. That's the spiritual game. That's the quest.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. And after a few beers,
you're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. Could be as vast as imagined. Divine beauty versus physical beauty. The internet accidentally receiving platonic ideas. Reviving, yes. Yes. That's another thing, yeah. Very few people. I don't know why, it's been a puzzle of mine my whole life, but how many people can sit through this kind of a reflection? And I'm guessing you're not in Australia, you're probably on the other side of the world. But yeah, the internet allows us to have this kind of dialogue that is rare. But then you go out and find someone with an equally beautiful mind and soul, and you welcome their body along with it, and you go on this journey. As Plato puts it, if the human eyes could be brought to see and behold divine beauty, a terrible love would be aroused that would be uncontrollable. I mean the gooning horse. All right, sure. Yes. That's the fun with the game. Once you see it, or even as you are practicing putting your right opinions together in order or understanding, you can have fun with it, make analogies. And Twitch offers us a language that we can use to have fun with analogies. So you could call it Twitch theology, maybe? Internet theology? Skibbityology? Internet retrobateology? I don't know, think of a fun word. Put this kind of like lexicon on to metaphorically express it. By the way, that you can have fun with, and that's Socrates said that's how I communicate to people. Like, I use the language of blacksmithery to talk to blacksmiths. I mean, I've had, like, sometimes I talk about being in the zone or being, like, on fire with athletes. So yeah, so you can think of a way of expressing this quest and this desire to understand the source of the beauty that you see in this person, using leet speak. Or what's the name for the internet slop language? Hey baby, you're so beautiful, I want to put my gooning horse in the shed. I don't know. You'll think of something better. So, because if you could see beauty itself with the eyes, it would arouse a terrible love that would be uncontrollable. Thus, the way to the divine is the way that the very passionate lover must learn to cultivate and gain the beloved. So in a similar way that you try and connect with someone with a beautiful soul and mind, heart and head, you're also learning the way that your own soul is cultivating that, what's the word? Gentle, sincere relationship with beauty itself. Or, as we put it earlier with that other paragraph, what was it? A gentle and sincere way of cultivating and gaining beauty itself I was thinking about something we typed to Zeus earlier. It's gone. Truly, it is a very beautifully told story. And Jesus said, I can see there's a depth behind these remarks of yours, and this idea of love gives me much to reflect on. You grasp the very dynamics of loving beautifully. So in gaining one's beloved, one learns the way to the divine. There you go. See? Analogy. The differences between the mortal and the immortal are the extremes that you reconcile in the mean. It's not a celibate life, but it's not an addiction to physical pleasures or mistaking physical beauty and physical pleasures for the true source and goal. Reality. Even that, the source of that, the self. So, it's integrating that into the relationship in the way that we've had, not celibacy like the Gospel of Thomas. Thomas the voluntary celibate. Or I think the Gospel of John, the Gnostic Gospel of John and Plato talked about pleasure. Not sexual pleasure specifically, but just pleasure itself being the source of man's ignorance. Socrates saying, no, it's not that. It's how you use it. Or reconciling the means, love and logos. In learning the nature of the meaning of differences, are you different? Is there a difference between men and women? There are some similarities. Both have toes. Some differences, though. Some things you can do. Both reach Zeus' self. Diotima was a master of the logos. But there are some differences, which you get to explore in the relationship. In learning the nature and meaning of differences, it creates the condition for a higher kind of union. The mystery of love is not in loving sameness. You don't try and make someone you, or your model of your parents, or it's in learning the meaning of difference that true loving is achieved. Yes, that's true, says Jesus. Here you present the mystery of the extremes, and with them I suspect you will find the meaning of the mean. I see you are saying the same thing for the extremes as you would for poverty and wealth or poverty and progress. What? Okay. Don't be too rich, I guess, says Jesus. Tell the preachers in America. Tell the Pope. Ha 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 ha. Yes, and in the idea of finding the harmony in a world of extremes is the very goal of our intelligible cosmos. Right. It's not about making everyone the same. Trump, Jews, Christians, Mormons, Scientologists. No. Rich people wanting to, what did that Fox News presenter say this week? Kill all the homeless? What a disgusting person. What a disgusting ignorance. No, what we're here to do is cultivate diversity. That's necessary for evolution. To cultivate diversity with unity or harmony in the world of extremes. Plato's idea of love and logos far excels that of Paul. Just killing everyone and sacrifice and devotion. And we talked about Paul's weird ideas of love earlier. But let's not get into that. Paul is ignorant of the loftiness of your teachings, Jesus, as he is of your philosophy. So modern Christians don't understand Jesus. They listen to Paul the weirdo. He substitutes his own limited theology for yours, and he is a denier of what you put forward, just as Mark is a different kind of interpretation. He denies you. So Jesus has a bunch of teachings, most of the Gospels the church burnt. We have the Gnostic Gospels that we recovered a lot of it. So they got rid of the ones that were about understanding because they liked Paul, who said, oh, you should just believe what the people in charge tell you to do. Fucking terrible. But Mark sneaked in there and denied Paul. Paul denied Jesus. Mark denied Paul. And Mark the slayer of the falsifier. Modern Christians believe a deceiver. The falsifier and denier Paul. You tell Christians that. Might be hard. Direct them to the book so they can figure it out for themselves. Because this book bangs. How are we with time? 2.5 hours in. Let me just check something. Have I missed all of Sweet Anita's video today? No, she's still got some videos, I think. I usually play music late on a Saturday, and so I come back and like review and work on songs that are suggested that I hadn't learned how to play and do busy work and stuff. And I listen to Sweet Anita's Twitch stream on Sundays. Watch that because she has like some great moderators that put a collection of videos together. That's fun. And you can't watch it in the restream either, which is annoying. So, on that note, yeah, well, what we were going to do next time is a good review talking about love. That's important. We need to get our followers into relationships because, by the way, that's part of midwifery. That's part of the dialectic. Relationships, as Socrates says, being a midwife or a dialectician is also, hey, look, my art of midwifery has parallels with my mother's art of giving birth to babies, helping women give birth to babies. Her art reached a high point since she could detect early signs of pregnancy, assist women in the trials and difficulties of childbirth, and after assisting in the birth, judge, Artemis, if the birth was true and noble birth or it should be abandoned. She knew something few midwives ever get to know. She knew what kinds of relationships would prove to be beneficial and which not. My art parallels her in every way. In other words, knowing which, as Jesus says, which love unions would bring the rewards of intimacy and not. So in other words, part of this noble art of Zeus, of Socrates, our excellence and purpose is pimping out our chatters and followers so that they can find the right beloveds. Now, pimping out is not the right word, but so it was worth reflecting on this in this way and encouraging everyone on the channel to develop the logos and pursue loving relationships in a similar way. And give birth to works that will rival Homer or Hesiod and share it. Because it's that sharing it, because you have done this, you've reached that fulfillment, you've together in cultivating that relationship, learned how to cultivate your own soul and mind for that experience of wisdom. And then again, in the afterglow of intimacy and that experience, reflect on it with the art of logos you've developed along the way to see that it has to have a cause. That's the self. And then come back and share your works with us because you can see 1,000 times better. That's mythology. That's why you should join the Discord and share your creations. And that's why it's worth reflecting on this with our friends today and chat the way we have done. That's our goal. And by the way, what do we do as we read? Apollo is our reading. Keep an eye on that as we go, focusing on the source of all. So everything that we've done today, find a god to slide it into. Have a page for each of these gods. Keep your notes in there. And yeah, go out and risk it. Best of luck. Best of Providence. Follow the logos. Oh, and keep an eye on how your dreams help you along the way. So that Hermes that you've been developing, practice it on your dreams. And if you do have that relationship that our friend is, fingers crossed, cultivating or at least open to, well, you get to practice Hermes, the dialectic, on your dreams every morning over coffee. Wouldn't that be lovely? Feel free to join the Discord to share that art and your ups and downs and experiences along the path to that end goal of Zeus. You can follow on Twitch and YouTube. You can find a link to the text below. You can donate a coffee to the channel if you feel the urge. that will go towards buying a better camera so I can look more beautiful to add some more Aphrodite to the Apollo that we do here. Thanks once again, and I'll see you in the next one. Music.